Welcome back, troops. Let's tab 59. And to what can only be described as a typical bank holiday weekend in England. It's Saturday, it's been raining all morning, finally got a break in the weather, so we're out tabbing. Thanks for dropping by. Now, before I get into this video, I've got a few bits and pieces to tell you. First of all, my last video was about red light districts and rough bars. And I got some great responses in the comments. Some that I've lived a sheltered life apparently, and I'm not the only ones that looked at the Freeman's catalogue. But what I did forget to mention, which a couple of people, especially my mate Mark Shaw's, he's picked up on it, I missed out talking about lay-by leals. Now, lay-by leals, many of you know, especially out in Germany, I can remember coming down Route 3 from sort of Vincennes way or Hanover way, I can't remember, and you see sort of a forest area on this highway, and there'd be a lay-by, and quite often there'd be a plastic bag hanging off a tree nearby the lay-by. And I think that's to let you know that there was a lay-by reel in there to be dropped off, and maybe, I don't know, I never used them. I mean, I did see them, and I've got to be honest, the ones that I saw, they had faces like a melted welly. Weren't pretty. So anyway, lay-by leals, I forgot to mention those ladies of the daytime who provide a service to anybody happen to be going past their lay-by. So that out of the way. Now the next thing I want to do is pull over here, because before I get into the meat of the video, I want to read out some of the names of you fantastic supporters that have been donating to our challenge, which is coming up in only a 2 weeks time. 7th of September we set off. So I'll pull over here and just read out some of the fantastic people, well, all the ones I can. I mean, like I say, I get a few on the Just Giving page that are anonymous, but you know you are, and thank you. But got to read out a few of these. Now the first one is quite special because I got contacted via email from a lovely lady called Anne, who told me that her father, who's a veteran, we'll get on to him in a minute, was trying to donate to the page but couldn't find the link in my video description. Anyway, sent a link. She told me a little bit about her father in the email she sent me, and made a very generous donation, and thank you. And her father, Smudger or Groundhog, Smudge or Groundhog is your nickname, isn't it, Smudge? Smudge is ex-First RHA, Royal Horse Artillery. He's an ex-member of that, and later on he went on to the South Notts Hussars. And I think I might be right in saying the South Notts Hussars later came on to be part of maybe 103 Regiment Royal Artillery. Anyway, we got chatting, me and Anne, that is, by email, and she wanted me to give him a good shout out. So Smudge, Groundhog, two cracking nicknames. I've never heard of anyone having two different nicknames, but obviously there's a story attached to the Groundhog one. You'll have to let me know. Thank you both very much. Smudge, thank you. Great to hear from another veteran from the artillery. Next one then is Scouse Frank, ex-RAF Regiment, and ex-4 Para from Walton in Liverpool. So 4 Para, I think I mentioned that before. There used to be 10 Para. This is the TA in reserve. This used to be 10 Para and 15 Para, which I think were a Scottish parachute battalion. They both went, and 4 Para was formed. And I would say, Scouse Frank, your ex-RAF Regiment and your ex-4 Para. Thanks for your support, mate, and your donations. Much appreciated. Another one now from Liverpool area, Mr. Spudley. Mr. Spudley quite often commentates on my channel. Nice to talk to you, mate. Nice to give you a shout out. Ex-Liverpool Jocks. Well, that's the Scottish Regimental Association for the Scottish Liverpool unit. They're now called, well, it was an association. I believe your association has recently disbanded. But cheers, cheers, Mr. Spudley. Appreciate that. Mike Child, another commenter on my channel quite a bit, ex-Royal Signals. Thank you, Mike. Now, this one, Steve Lewis. Anyone here from 9-4, locating regiment, may remember Steve. I do certainly, because me and Steve, when I was in 9-4 out in Celle in Germany, Steve was in the same room as me in H Troop 156 Battery. So it's nice to hear from you, Steve, now and again, and thanks for your support, mate. Henry Wilkes, ex-Chief Petty Officer, Submariner. Now there's a job. It's not easy getting them dolphins. It's not easy getting them dolphins, is it, Henry? You have to earn them badges. So very, very much appreciate that, Henry. Thank you a lot. Peter Crow over in the United States. Thank you, Peter. Very much appreciated. John Greenmantle. Cheers, John. Dave C, ex-Royal Engineers. Ubik. Nice one, mate. Thank God for the CRE, eh? So cheers for that, Dave. Archie Dickinson, another RAF Regiment guy. Getting a few RAF Regiment. I'm doing a video on you guys very soon, I promise you. RAF Regiment, big respect to you. Cheers, Archie. Steve, it just says, Steve, you weren't in the military, but you did work for the MOD as a civilian. So thank you for your support as well. And this one, I'm supposing this is a police officer. It's just, the name is PC8602. PC8602. Thank you for your support, mate. Much appreciated. Another one here, Mrs. H. Thank you, Mrs. H. And the last one I've got today is Rolfie. Rolfie, another RAF veteran. So thank you very much, Rolfie. A lot of RAF supporting an old soldier. I'm liking that. Cheers. Right, so what am I talking to you about today while I'm tabbing on up here? Hopefully I can do this off the top of my head without script. None of mine are script. I only read names out on a bit of paper because I can't remember them all. So, for those of you again that served out in BAOR in Germany, West Germany as it was then, especially sort of around 70s, 80s, and even the early 90s actually, after reunification, even in the early 90s, I think up to about 94, you must remember, if you was on Soltua Training Area around Hona, that area, you remember being out on exercise, or maybe being on one of the ranges, and out of the blue, rocks up an old blue Mercedes van, Bratty Wagon, Wolfgang's Bratty van. He's a legend. Wolfgang Meyer, I think his name was. So you'd be out there, and all of a sudden, like I say, you'd hear a horn beep or a bell ring. Someone said there was a bell on it, and they stole it. But it bibbies an upward rock, Wolfgang, middle of nowhere. I mean, some rough old training areas out there, been, churned up by armoured vehicles, track vehicles, and there'd be Wolfgang and his blue Mercedes, and he'd park up, lift his hatch up, and start flogging you bratties, pomfrets. He'd even have yellow handbags on board. Now, a lot of people used to say he's a KGB spy, an East German spy, because Wolfgang seemed to know where all the units were. I've even heard stories of soldiers being lost on the area, and they've seen Wolfgang, and they've pulled over and said, here, do you know where Squadron HQ is, or Battery Headquarter Troop, or whatever? And Wolfgang's pointed them out, said they're over there. So it always amazed people how Wolfgang knew where we were. Well, actually, there was a bit of an interview with Wolfgang, and in the interview he says that as soon as he saw a military vehicle, he'd pull up, offer him a yellow handbag, little stumpy bottles of Hereford pills. He'd offer him a yellow handbag, and they'd show him on the map where various units were. How true, I mean, that's what he says. So I don't think he was a spy at all. But Wolfgang, a real legend. He retired in 1994. I think he's still alive, but I may be wrong. I don't know that one. Oh, dead air jog, not nice. So, yeah, he retired in 1994. And apparently the money that he made, his small fortune that he made from serving us bratties out on the training areas and ranges around Soltua, he managed to buy a campsite. And I believe his daughter runs that campsite to this day. I don't know where it is, what it's called, but that's what I've heard. Wolfgang, blue Mercedes, you must remember that. So, talking about that, some of the food we had out in Germany, when I got out there, I was just used to fish and chips back in UK. I think we had a Chinese near where I was in the early 70s. But we didn't have too many sort of fast food outlets. Like I say, I think there's a Wimpy, remember Mr. Wimpy? We didn't have a McDonald's in the early 70s, not where I was. Guess out of Germany, of course, it's all Schnellies. Now, Schnell means fast, quick. Schnell Imbiss, fast food. So they called it in They were dotted all over the German town, Schnellies. We called them a Schnelli, Schnellimbiss. And of course in there you could get stuff like Wolfgang would offer you, bratwurst, currywurst. I like to currywurst. So bratwurst really, with like a curry sauce on it, a bit of paprika maybe. Really, really nice. And half a Hähnchen mit pommes frites, half a chicken and chips. That was quite nice as well. And of course that was the first time I'd seen anyone put mayonnaise on chips. What was that all about? I hadn't even seen mayonnaise in my house. We had salad cream, tomato ketchup, brown sauce, or a bit of salad cream in the summer. We didn't have mayonnaise, it was a bit posh. Gets out of Germany, and I saw these locals putting mayonnaise on their pommes frites. Actually, I've tried it since, many years ago, and I quite like it now. And I do put a bit of mayo on my chips, but back then, it was like, what? You could go to a fish and chip shop in England back then and say, I'll have fish and chips, and by the way, stick a lump of mayonnaise on the side. What? It was salt and vinegar on it and tomato sauce. Anyway, what else did they have? Well, they had bockwurst, which is like a boiled sausage. And one thing, listen, 9-4 guys, people that were in the cellar. When you went down to the cellar, I think it was across the road from the Commerce Bank, near the French Gardens, the Französische Gardens. There was a club, and upstairs it was a restaurant, downstairs was a disco, and it was called the Old Timer. When I last went out there a few years ago now, I think it was a clothes shop or something, definitely not a nightclub anymore, the Old Timer. And they did some quite nice food in there. You could have something to eat upstairs. One of the meals they done was quite popular with our lads, I remember, was Spiegelei mit Bratkartoffeln. So what was that? That was Spiegelei is fried eggs. Fried eggs, you get 2 fried eggs and Bratkartoffeln, which is fried potato. There's a little bit of bacon and onion in with it. Very nice. I remember coming back with a good old mate of mine, he's not with us anymore, God rest him, Youth Welton, Colin Welton. And we went in the Old Time, we'd had a good night in there, we went upstairs, we got this takeaway meal in this polystyrene box, and it was Spiegelei and Bratkartoffeln, 2 fried eggs with fried potatoes. And we had a takeaway in this polystyrene box. We come out the Old Timer, across the road, down the side where that cinema was, I think. We went home that way. We might have gone through the French Gardens. Trying to eat egg and chips or egg and fried potatoes with our bare hands. No fork with it, no plastic fork. Trying to eat a soft fried egg. Well, we was hungry, mate. I mean, we was all over that German food, like we was with Wolfgang's chippy van, his Bratty van. We was all over that, like a hungry seagull on a toddler's ice cream. We was all over it. And so I thought I'd mention Wolfgang and his Bratty wagon, because his stuff's of legend. Apparently, I think it was in 2020, so he was certainly alive then. In 2020, some people over here in the UK got a petition together to try and get him a gong in the New Year's Honours list. It didn't happen. But you can imagine how Wolfgang rocking up in his blue Merc at Buckhouse to pick his OBE up, MBE, where it would have been. But obviously he didn't get it. But yeah, I mean, I think you can also go online and buy a little model, a toy model of his blue Mercedes, I suppose it's a Sprinter van, wasn't it? I don't know, it's an old one. Blue Mercedes van with Wolfgang written on it, with a little side hatch. Nostalgic times, weren't they? Anyway, it's enough waffle. Back to the tabbing. Remember, our challenge is coming up on the 7th of September for 7 days. For 8 days, where we'll be tabbing with weight, me and the trace around. We're going to cover 80 miles in 8 days. So 10 mile a day, basically, to raise money for Scottish Little Soldiers. So I've said before, if you don't know this charity over here in the UK, Scottish Little Soldiers, it's a charity that's set up by the wife of a soldier that lost his life in Afghanistan. And the charity is for bereavement assistance for service men and women's children that are left behind. So when we lose somebody in the forces, through any cause, it's not necessarily through operational deaths, but through illnesses or accidents or even suicide. The children that are left behind obviously need support, and that's what Scotty's is all about. So that's what we're doing it for Scotty's Little Soldiers. 80 miles in 8 days with weight, and we set off on the Saturday the 7th of September 2024 in Skegness. We're doing the opener in Skegness. As I said, I think before, we can only get maybe a couple of miles in Skegness because it's so busy. It's just to launch it and get a few cash donations to build up their funds, and then we'll come back over to the village and we'll finish that first day's tab off here. But after that, it's a straight 10 miles every day until we've completed it. 80 miles in 80 days, blisters and all. So if you haven't looked at our GoFund page, or JustGiving page, sorry, I'll leave a link in the description of this video, as I have the other videos. Please have a look. Click on there if you can, and any donations appreciated. £1, 50p, it doesn't matter, anything just to boost it up for us. We've already hit our target of £1,000. We've nearly doubled that. We're close to 2,000 now. We're around £1,900 now. But just because we've hit our target, we still want to keep going and raise more and do as much as we can for that charity. It's a well-worthy cause. So please go and have a look at that if you can. Like I say, I'll leave a link in the description. If you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, please consider it. I'm not saying do it, I'm saying consider it. Consider subscribing, and that'll help the channel out and help us out with the donations as well, hopefully. So that's enough from me for today. Have a great bank holiday, what's left of it. Hopefully it'll get a bit better. Get your barbecues out. Until next time, troops, stay safe, and remember, let's tab.